like the sense of self-worth that you have,
Mhm.
I've learned has to come from a place internally. Like one of the, and I don't know if women fall into this as much as men. I'm sure women have their own versions of this, but I know for men,
Mhm.
especially for me, I used to be very much about having extrinsic symbols of worth, so whether it was
Mhm.
money or status or prestige or accolades, followers on social media or whatever. And I think at some point you just kind of realize that, all of that fades eventually. And the other thing is no one really cares. If anything, they're just a bit jealous of you, or they're kind of resentful of the fact that you have those things or you're showing off those things.
Mhm.
So over the last, I would say 10 years, probably from my mid 30s onwards, I started to realize, wow, the worthiness comes from recognizing who you are as a person. And also I think what you contribute to others. You know,
Welcome to Love Magic Miracles. I'm Alina GG, and if you're a soul-led entrepreneur who wants to make a big impact in the world, you're in the right place. And if you'd love to weave feminine embodiment into your everyday and quantum leap every area of your business and love life to new heights, then plug into these conversations with these inspiring thought leaders and hit subscribe, comment, like, and share with someone you care about today. Hi, it's Alina GG from Love Magic Miracles, and I have an exciting announcement. Doors are officially open to the Safe to Be Seen Accelerator program. Now, this 12-week container is for you if you're sick of playing small, you're done hiding, you're ready to embody your messaging and your business, and you really want to show up at that next level and feel good about it. For years, I felt like it actually wasn't safe to be seen, and if I'm honest, it was because it was subconscious. It wasn't really conscious. I couldn't really tell you why I felt unsafe to be seen. It wasn't like everyone really was going to judge me or tell me I wasn't good enough, but it was actually more my inner critic telling me, right? That voice inside my head. And I don't know if we can really silence that inner critic. I don't know if anyone can ever really do that, but we can turn that volume down. And I'm here to hold space for others to do that, right? To really connect deeper in to those visibility blocks and start to turn the volume down on your inner critic, and then turn the volume up on your self-expression and who you are and your purpose and your messaging and your aliveness and your brilliance, and get it out in the world. So if this excites you, head on over to lovemagicmiracles.com, check out the Safe to Be Seen Accelerator program and the testimonials, and join now. Hello, it's Alina GG, and I have a very special guest for you today. I have Daniel Midson Short. He is a professional speaker amongst many other things, and I'm going to hand it straight over to you, Daniel. Let's go. What's happening in your world?
hello, Alina. Good to see you. It's been a little while.
I
I'm, I'm,
know.
I'm doing great. I'm over here in sunny Southern California, just outside LA in Long Beach. Originally from Australia, though, as you can probably tell. But yeah, I've lived here a long time now, almost 15 years, which is crazy.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that's
my
a
name's
while.
Pat
Wow.
Ozzy, and yeah, like you said, do a lot of speaking, writing, a lot of other different things too. And I'm excited to be here on your podcast. I've been listening to a few episodes, so very
Oh,
honored to be a guest and be part of it.
thank you. That's great. So I know you've also had a marketing background, and then you just mentioned you've had a little career change in the last year and a half.
Yes.
What's going on there?
Yeah, so up till about end of 2022, I was running my own content marketing and SEO agency. So I worked with marketing agencies as a contractor and also with independent clients, building their websites, writing all their content, helping them with SEO. I did that for a long time. Previous to that, I had worked in professional coaching and training, mostly business coaching, sales training, leadership communication training. And I needed a change out of the marketing world. It's an interesting world and I don't know ecosystem, that whole that whole area of work. So I kind of burnt myself out running my own business after about 8 years, 8.5 years, and just thought, you know what, I really miss coaching and training and
Mm.
helping people. And I wanted to do more speaking. So I applied to work with a company, or several companies. And the one that I ended up working with, based out of Arizona, is an amazing company that works with small business owners. They're mostly like HVAC, air conditioning, plumbing,
Hmm.
electricians. They're all kind of tradespeople. all who run their own business, and I'm one of their coaches and trainers, and so get to help them to grow their business, improve their leadership, their
Mm,
sales skills, and I do help them with marketing as well. It's actually one of the niches that I specialize in the company. So yeah, so I'm
nice.
very, very fortunate to be part of the team, and it is lovely not to run my own business. I'll tell you that for a
Oh,
while.
yeah. Yeah,
Nothing
great.
against those who do it, but I needed a little break, and who knows, maybe in the future we'll go back to it.
Well, life ebbs and flows, doesn't it? And different seasons. And you've just recently gotten married.
Yes, yes, I got
Yes.
married late last year, October, so coming up on a year
Congratulations.
now. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Yeah, yeah, late bloomer in love. So I was married previously years ago, but yeah, met the love of my life, Lauren, about 2.5, 3 years ago, and just hit it off amazingly. And yeah, so we got married last year. Very small wedding. It was just us and two friends. One of my good friends was the celebrant, and her best friend, and so we did almost like a mini elope, but here in the beaches in California, and it was wonderful. If anyone's thinking of having a very small wedding, I definitely recommend it. It's
Nice.
very stressless and very enjoyable.
Oh, good to hear. Good idea. Wow. And so how did you meet?
We met the conventional way online, as you do, through a dating app. And it was a
Hmm.
funny story because a good friend of mine here in California had been harassing me for like 2 years to go online and do some online dating. And because I'd always said, oh, I don't think there's any chemistry when you meet someone that way. And, because I was
Hmm.
always speaking it out at events and whatever, I'd meet people that way.
Hmm.
And so I said, I'm not going to be good at this. And so I said to her, look, I'll do 10 dates and I'll show you that it doesn't work for me. All right. And she
Oh,
said, okay,
wow.
fine. And so I did 3 dates. I got to my third date and I met Lauren. So there you go.
That's
So
amazing.
I know, right?
They,
So I know it's kind of annoying too, because I'm now that person who's like, when the time is right, you'll meet the right person. I'm the person you want to punch, like I used to I used to be the one who's like, it's all BS and who cares. And
yeah.
now I'm the reverse. Now I'm like, when your time is right for you, you'll meet the person. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's great. Yeah, that's true because I guess in life it's like we're preparing for things, aren't we? We're always being tested and challenged and we're growing and learning and then we're preparing for all sorts of things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, always. Yeah, always in a constant state of growth. That's what I love about who you are and what you do. And same here. And you can see all the books behind me. I'm always learning and growing and thinking about something and,
Mm.
creating a video or a speech or a blog or whatever about
Yeah.
something I'm learning. So, yeah.
And so with your speaking, what's your favorite topics to talk about at the moment?
Oh, that's a good question. So I would say what I initially started speaking on was more it was more like things to do with within my work at the time, which was more around sales, around communication skills, even marketing. I did a lot of speaking around that. And then I
Hmm.
just started to branch out into more kind of personal development, self-improvement type topics. So confidence. One of the things that I did a Tedex talk around the idea of learning to pay attention. That's the title of it, pay
Hmm.
attention. And, being more present in your life. That was something I had to learn through very painful lessons. And then
Hmm.
I started to do a lot of youth speaking. I got invited to speak at a youth TEDx event. And so since then, I've done a lot of different sort of, teenage kind of self-improvement, motivational talks, things like that. And
Great.
so, yeah, I mean, I'm very broad in that way, but definitely in the arena of, I got kind of known probably pre-COVID for talking about, how technology was changing us and how we were losing the ability to focus and being able to just pay attention to the important things in your life, how much value there is in that. So
Mhm.
not that I was anti-technology by any means, but,
Yeah.
I'd learned to kind of curb the addiction to it in my life and
Hmm.
be present to what's important. And so
Mm.
yeah, so there's a lot of different topics, and now today on my YouTube channel I actually strangely have kind of attracted a microcosm of, I would say, men in their 30s and 40s who are wanting to improve themselves. So
Hmm.
men who are open to that kind of
Yeah.
area of life. That's something else that's come online. So I talk a lot about different topics for them, and yeah, so there's a lot of different
Mm.
things.
That's great. And what's your YouTube channel called again for the audience?
Oh, it's just my name. So if you just
Okay.
Google my name, Daniel Midson Short, I usually pop up pretty high up on there. I think the
Awesome.
actual URL is Midson Short. So, but if you
Hmm.
look for that or look on my website, you'll find it there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Great. Well then, so what else is happening? What else is inspiring you?
Good question. Well, I would definitely say my relationship and, moving into a new phase of life has really
Mm-hmm.
changed who I am as a person and given me a different focus. I think I definitely had when I was younger a very strong, ambitious streak.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's being in my mid 40s too. I don't know, but I've started to settle down a little bit and
Mm-hmm.
enjoy life a bit more and even started to explore some kind of quasi spiritual kind of arenas, which I know is one of your areas of interest. So I've been reading a lot of like Eckhart Tolle books and
Oh,
Wayne
yes.
Dyer and learning about the map of consciousness and all these things the last year or two. So
Oh,
I'm
wow.
hoping actually over the next year or two to delve more into that on my YouTube channel and maybe do more
Mm-hmm.
writing around it too. The
Mm-hmm.
idea of being more selfless and letting go of the ego and that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So that's kind of inspiring me right now because I'm
Yeah.
learning how much it does help you to, I think, to a certain point to have a ego driven, whatever you want to say, consciousness, or that's part of who you are. But at a certain point, it starts to damage you as well. And I've definitely
Mm-hmm.
been through both sides of that. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's being in my mid 40s now, calming down a little bit. Maybe it's being very happy in my relationship and in my
Mm-hmm.
work and things has given me that. But that's really, I don't know, maybe it's just more of a balance in life is what's inspiring
Mm-hmm.
me, I guess.
That's good. That's a great answer. Yeah,
Yeah.
balance is
Yeah.
definitely important every day. Yeah, bit of
Oh,
work, bit of
yes.
play, bit of nature. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and actually, on that point too, just something I've been doing recently. We bought what we call a condo in the US, an apartment basically.
Mm-hmm.
And as part of the area we're in, there's a lot of gardens in the middle of the apartment complex, and they were kind of, I wouldn't say like damaged, but they were very uncared for. No one was really kind of caring for them. So just the last 6 months, I've actually been going down most weekends and doing some, I would say, landscaping and gardening and
Right.
watering and weeding and planting new plants and things. And
Mm.
so I've got super into that. I go down there and play in the dirt for a couple of hours, and I love it. It's a very
Mhm.
relaxing and very kind of restorative way to
Yeah,
end the week. I always come out of there very
definitely.
refreshed. So yeah, just
Yeah.
being in nature in that way, and it's really cool now because it's now as the seasons are changing, it's starting to all the plants are growing and
Mm.
flowering and stuff, and I'm like, oh wow, I had a hand in this. This is really cool.
Mm.
So that's kind
That's
of
great.
another nerdy pursuit that I've got into is
Lovely.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Good. So when you mentioned confidence earlier, what have you learnt about that and how can people become more confident?
Oh boy. Wow. Okay. I would say what has stood out to me the most is the sense of what I want to say, like the sense of self-worth that you have. I've learned has to come from a place internally. Like one of the, and I don't know if women fall into this as much as men. I'm sure women have their own versions of this, but I know for men,
Mm-hmm.
especially for me, I used to be very much about having extrinsic symbols of worth, so whether it was
Mm-hmm.
money or status or prestige or accolades, followers on social media or whatever. And I think at some point you just kind of realize that, all of that fades eventually. And the other thing is no one really cares. If anything, they're just a bit jealous of you or they're kind of resentful of the fact that you have those things or you're showing off those things.
Mm-hmm.
So over the last, I would say 10 years, probably from my mid 30s onwards, I started to realize, wow, the worthiness comes from recognizing who you are as a person. And also I think what you contribute to others. That's something that came online with my speaking and writing
Mm-hmm.
and videos was maybe initially I was doing it for the status, to stand
Mm-hmm.
out, to show off, to impress people. But I
Mm-hmm.
very quickly learned that the worthiness actually came from, wow, I'm contributing to other people. I'm sharing something that
Mm-hmm.
actually helps them in a way. And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would say that internal worth is really, that's probably the first thing that I've learned about confidence. And then the other side of it, I would say too, is your competence in life, which is, it's not quite the same thing, but it's really having the ability to do the things you need to do, having the skills that you need, whether it is something like public speaking or selling or marketing or parenting or, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you have those skills and you develop them to a higher level, that actually gives you a lot of confidence too, because
Mm-hmm.
it gives you the ability to cope with the challenges of life and know that, hey, I got this. I can make this
Mm-hmm.
through. I remember I think it was the book Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. She said the biggest thing that is underneath the fear a lot of the time is this sense of like, I can't handle what's happening. Right. And if you
Mm-hmm.
realize that with the skills and the ability that you have in life, you can handle it, you will figure it out. That gives you a
Mm-hmm.
massive boost of confidence, even when things aren't going right.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I would say it's both. So it's that internal worth, realizing who you are as a person, which isn't easy. and, leaning into that more than the extrinsic. And then the other thing would be definitely developing your skills in life, whatever they may be for you, to a point where you feel like, hey, I can use these to live a good life and also contribute.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Thanks for bridging all that together. Yeah, that's great.
Oh, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
What's new skills you'd like to learn?
So it's interesting. I actually just recently finished competing for the seventh time in the World Championships of Public Speaking for Toastmasters, which we haven't really mentioned yet, but it's one of my other crazy side hobbies that I have, is attempting to win the World Championship, the Toastmasters World Championship of Public Speaking. I've been doing that a long time, and it's like a 6-month journey every year, creating speeches and delivering them and competing. But I just came out of that period, so I got to the semifinals, which is the second last round of the contest this year, and then didn't progress. So I call this time of year from like September to December my off season, right? Because I don't have to train, I don't have to practice speeches. So during my off season, the skill that I really want to focus on is actually building more engagement on my YouTube videos, because it's an interesting thing that, you create content, like when you speak in front of an audience, you can get an engagement. Like you and I are talking, I can see you nodding, and, if you're engaged or not. When you're creating video content, you have no idea if the person is actually listening, they're doing something else, whatever. So it's a very unique skill. And so I've actually, just the last 2 weeks since the end of the contest, I've been reading and studying a lot of stuff about how we communicate online, and how to keep people engaged, and how to help them to kind of trust you more, and all that kind of thing. So
what are some tips? Yeah, if you want to share some tips around those two things.
Yeah. So things I've learned. So one of the things I've definitely learned is to have a very open agenda. So if you are wanting to, let's say you want to talk about a certain topic, you are very open about the fact, you say, I'm learning about this, or this is something that I'm interested in, or I think this is important because of this, and just like come from your perspective first in whatever it is you're doing. And I always, especially in the videos I create, I try to talk about the fact that, hey, my life isn't perfect. I don't know everything. I'm not a genius. I'm not world famous. I'm not a psychologist with 50 degrees. I'm just a person. But I am interested in this topic, and I want to share what I've learned. So having that very open agenda, I think, breaks through, because, a lot of the time, especially in video format, we try to be almost like our best perfect self, and be a bit of a fake version. So I've learned that really helps. The other thing that's been interesting too is leaving some mistakes in there. So if I accidentally mess up a word, which sometimes happens on video, sometimes I'll just leave it in there. I'll just like mess something up, or I'll have a little quick edit cut or something, and people love it because they're like, oh wow, he made a mistake. He's human, So that works as well. And then in terms of engagement too, it's like getting to the point quickly, especially in YouTube format, because you think there's billions of options of what people can watch. So if I'm talking about something, if I can say it in 10 seconds instead of a minute, I've trained myself to shorten what I'm saying down and try to get to the point very quickly, which is hard, because you want it to be conversational and natural, but at the same time, it's like, you've got to get on with it, because otherwise people will just click off. It's not like in normal life where they pretend to listen. They're like, bye, I'm gone.
Yeah, is that like the opposite of your speaking process? Because with speaking, do you get some points and have to flesh it out? And how do you do that?
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, in the speaking world, it's very different, right? Because you've got an audience who are kind of, I don't want to say forced to listen, but, they've decided to sit there and listen to you for whatever, 10, 20, 30 minutes. They're part of a conference or an event or something like that. So it's almost more of a like, well, okay, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt. And typically, like, public speaking audiences, they want you to succeed. They actually, no one wants you to just like directly failed, but it's almost like, okay, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt, we'll give you our attention, but you kind of know within about, I would say, like 10 minutes of talking to an audience how engaged they're going to be. And usually you'll have like 2 or 3 people in the audience who are more engaged, and the rest are just kind of pretending. Some people are on their phone under the table, or, they're just like nodding and pretending to listen. So it's a very different skill, and you have to raise the energy up. You have to make sure that there's stories, and there's different anecdotes, and there's humor, and there's exercises, and, all those things, especially for longer events, to keep people engaged. Otherwise, they're just going to start to drift off. Whereas in a video format, they will just literally click off. So it's really on you to keep that engagement up, and that's so that's a skill I've been learning the last couple of weeks, and I'm excited just for the rest of the year to keep focused on that, and obviously keep creating great ideas and videos and things, and having fun with it. That's another big thing, having fun with it, I think.
Definitely. And self-expression is so important, and I think that that's something that we all need as a human. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
In some form. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you think your video creation, because I've been watching yours over the last couple of years, how do you think it's evolved for you? What's changed or what's become different over the last couple of years, do you think?
Well, I think I'm more and more interested in other people's stories and opinions and less interested in my own.
Mm, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It's
So you
just,
become more of a almost like a facilitator or a host of
mm,
people's stories. Yeah.
yeah,
I love that. Yeah,
yeah,
very cool.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I went on someone's podcast the other day, actually, Amy Takaya. Her podcast is Free Your Soma, and she's in New York. And we interviewed each other. So it was such a different experience to be interviewed. But it's good though,
Yes.
because it's that growth mindset, get out of your comfort zone. I am good enough, just be me, just show up,
Yeah.
because it's like there's always going to be that inner critic that's like, oh, you're not prepared enough or expert enough or good enough or something like. And
Hmm.
then
Yeah.
what was interesting the other day, I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts, Smartless,
Yes.
Smartless,
Yes, of
and
course.
Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Sean Hayes. And they were interviewing John Bon Jovi. And then John Bon Jovi and Sean Hayes were talking about their inner critic. And it's like people can be so successful and so famous and still have this inner critic just nagging at them, going, why did you say that? Ah, that's not good enough, blah, 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 blah. So I think when we can go, okay, that's just part of the human experience. How do we, well, I like to say, turn the dial down on the inner critic and turn the dial up on self expression. And then I feel
Yeah.
like that's how we navigate that. Because if we try and eradicate it completely, great, that's a noble goal and noble cause. But is it actually possible?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, no, it's so true. And I think it's so cool that you did, you were interviewed and then you were the interviewee because you get to experience the other side of what you normally do. And yeah, did
Yeah.
you find afterwards, like, did you feel like better about yourself? Did you feel, okay,
Mm.
I
Well,
can do this moving forward?
this is thanks for that question because this is really interesting. When I was doing it, I thought it was really bad. And I thought I wasn't doing well at all. And then I heard it back and I was like, oh, there's some good stuff in here. And
Yeah.
so my plan is to go on quite a few other podcasts as well and keep
Awesome.
that going. Yeah.
Good. Wonderful.
Yeah.
We have a very important message, so I hope you do.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is evolving. And I have been plugging away at it for a while. And I'm just trusting the process as well. And I
Yeah.
think that's my leap of faith.
And
Yeah.
you had mentioned to me, I think when we were talking a couple of weeks ago, you had said that you wanted to do more. I don't know if it was speaking or it was more kind of the, interviews
Yeah.
and things like that. It's something you
Well,
were working on, right?
yeah, I would like to know more about how to craft a speech. What do you
Sure.
have any suggestions there?
Yeah, I mean, goodness, that could be like an 8 hour lecture.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say one of the interesting things that I learned about being let's say, a professional speaker is it's kind of, and you are a musician, so you know this. You kind of have a repertoire of songs, right, as a musician. So you
Mhm.
don't, most famous musicians don't go out on stage every night and just make up a bunch of songs. They
Mhm.
have them planned out. They have the albums that they've recorded, and they have a set list, and that's how they
Mhm.
work. And it's
Mhm.
very similar in the professional speaking world. So I used to think when I first started, oh my God, I've got to come up with a brand new speech every time. And, I've got to wow
Mhm.
this audience with something unique. No, they actually want something similar to what you've already done. It may not be exactly the same as the song's different every night when people perform, but they
Mhm.
actually relish having a similar message or something that's of value already that you've done. And what's interesting was, like, after I did my TEDx talk, people would say, "Can you come and do that talk at at an event?" And I think, why don't
Mhm.
you just play the video? Like, save the money and just play the video. Like, it's fine, it's free online. No, no, we want you to come and talk. So I'd go,
Right.
okay. So I would do a somewhat similar version, have the same kind of stories and message, but I might riff a little bit on the beginning or the end, or make it unique to that
Nice.
audience or something like that. But that gave me huge confidence as a speaker because I kind of knew my material. Right, same as a musician, they're not getting up there and going, "Oh, what chord is this?" They know,
Yeah.
what song to go into, and usually after you get going, you feel a bit more confident. So what I've learned as a speaker is to construct let's say, one message, one speech, and let's say you do like a 5 minute version of it, and then you might flesh it out to like a 15 or a 20 minute version, and then maybe even like a 45 minute version. And the core message would still be the same in the 5, the 20, and the 45 minute version, but there'll be more examples, more stories, more exercises. And then you figure out, how to build an interesting opening story or a really strong close or things like that. And
Mhm.
it's fascinating how the same message delivered in different formats can be very, very valuable. For a
Mm.
shorter or a shorter attention span audience, you might get it across in 5 or 10 minutes, and that's great. And they go, wow, that
Yeah.
was great. And then others want super long, 45-minute, couple of hour speeches.
Mm.
So that's
Wow.
the first thing I've learned is just to really like maybe pick 2 or 3 topics that you love and you're interested
Hmm.
in and flesh them out almost like a musician set list. And then once you
Mm.
have those available, then you can start to build your skills. The other side of it, obviously, like we were talking about before with competence,
Hmm.
is the more you're in front of audiences, the more you're
Hmm.
doing something, the more you start to relax and go, okay, I trust my
Hmm.
abilities, my skills, right?
Mm.
And I've been speaking now, God, I don't know, 15 years, something like that. So
Hmm.
for me to do a speech is like, no, okay, it's like tying your shoelace, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah,
Hmm.
I don't even need to think about it. But when
Mm.
you begin, you have to really focus and you'll be
Mm.
thinking, like you were kind of on the podcast, you're like, oh my God, am I saying the right thing? What's going on?
Yeah.
What are they thinking, right? No
Yeah.
one likes me, whatever. That starts to go away after a while, and you're like, okay, even if
Yeah.
you have a tough audience, you're like, I'll be okay. Like it's
Mm.
most of the time they're not thinking anything mean about you. They're just thinking about something else for themselves. They're just going
Hmm.
off in their own little tangent. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I would say it is definitely like it's one of those skills that the more you do it, the better you'll
Hmm.
get. And there are hundreds of books and training
Hmm.
programs out there about how to structure them. Simon Sinek has a really good one. I think it's on Skillshare. I haven't watched it for a few years, but he has a really good one just about how he structures his TED
Hmm.
Talks and his speeches. And honestly, if you just watch that one, I think it's like 10, 15 minutes. That's pretty much everything you need to know for the
Wow.
basics. And then it's just a matter of practicing and
Mm.
forcing yourself to get up and do it.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
useful. So, yeah, the next time I get up there and do a speech, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's funny too because you'll find that the more you speak in public, the more it's a macro skill, right? So it's one of those things. It's kind of like being able to drive a car or read or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The more you do it, the more you use it in every format, whether it is, online like this or in video
Mm-hmm.
format or in presentations for work or anything. Having that macro skill of speaking is incredible. It just because
Mm-hmm.
it comes online anytime. And an example I had was just as we got out of COVID, I joined a book club in my local
Mm-hmm.
area, and it was an outdoor one, right in a public park because we could only meet outside. And it was really funny. I went to the book club just thinking I was going to be an attendee, and then the organizer didn't show up. There was just like we were just all sitting there like a bunch of idiots going, "What are we doing?" So because of my public speaking background, I just said, well, guys, should we just get started? And I just started facilitating the meeting and saying, oh, what do you think? And what did you like about it? And why was that? And then they all just said, do you want to run it? And I was like, okay. So I just became the kind of new leader. And the other person just never came back. And so I inherited this book club. And it wasn't intentional, but it was just something that because I had that macro skill of speaking, I was like,
Where did you
well,
hide the body?
yeah, you'll never know. But yeah, it was really funny, and that was an example of it where I'm like, okay, I guess this is on me now, and it was great. I ran it for
Mm.
like 2 years, and it was fantastic. And
Really?
then I handed the reins over. Yeah, it was great.
That's
So
awesome because I mean that's what you were saying before about selfless service and it's fun and it's you're expressing and you're helping other people find
yeah,
their opinions and express them and that sounds like a good idea. What sort of books did you guys read?
it was a personal development book club, so it
Oh,
was really
good.
cool. Yeah, so we
Oh,
did.
wow.
Oh my goodness, we did Jay Shetty book. We did A
Mm-hmm.
New Earth by Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah,
I'm
great.
trying to think of some of the other books we did. You're a badass. I don't know how you say that by Jen Sincero. That was pretty funny. And it
Oh,
was always
good.
books that I was like when I'd start, I think, oh, I don't want to read this one, but the club wants to read it, and then I'd get into it. So it was
Nice.
good because it was like we'd all decide, you'd all take a vote on all the books.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very kind of diplomatic. So you'd be like, okay, that's our next book. And I had to read it because I was the leader. So I'd have to take notes and, oh, what did you think? And, oh, that's interesting. And I'd always get into it after a while. So
Oh,
yeah, it
great.
was really, really fun. I only stopped going because I moved when like we got married, we moved a little bit further north. And so it was like a 45-minute drive
Oh,
down
yeah.
and back. And in LA, there's so much traffic. I was just like, guys, I love you all, but this is a long journey. So I was driving for like an hour and a half just to go for like 40 minutes. And so
Oh, yeah.
there was another lady who ran it, and I said, why don't you take over? So,
Oh,
but I do
good.
miss it. Maybe I'll go back eventually.
Yeah, I'll start a new one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. You never
it's
know.
a good
You never
idea.
know.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
So, what else is front of mind for you? Any other messaging you want to share?
Um, hmm. I don't know. I've been definitely, as I was saying, like exploring the spiritual side of things more than I
Mm-hmm.
have in the past. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting to me. I think being open to that world more than I ever have. And it was actually reading A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle a couple of years
Hmm.
ago that I was like, I remember thinking, this is good. There's something here. This is
Hmm.
interesting. And so just the last 2 years, I think I've been more and more open to it. I don't know if you've ever read
Hmm.
any David Hawkins books.
Oh, the
Um,
scale of consciousness. Oh,
yes, yeah, map of
yeah,
consciousness or
map.
scale of
Yeah,
consciousness. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I read a couple of those. There was one called Letting Go, which was really good. It helped me to sort of
Hmm.
overcome a lot of internal barriers and things. I can't remember what exactly now, but I remember
Hmm.
that book was really profound. And
Yeah.
so I've been reading a bunch of his books again this year and getting
Hmm.
back into that. And so that's something that's top of mind for me is how can I kind of marry that all those ideas which are a little bit more out there or woo woo or
Hmm.
whatever you want to say
Hmm.
with the more
Mm.
conventional stuff I do, which is like communication and
Yeah.
leadership and sales and all those
Mm.
kind of things. And even one of the speeches I wrote for the contest this year was about being more selfless and
Mm.
learning to let go of your needs and actually just focusing on the world outside you. And that
Mm.
was a good journey too, just thinking about the times where I was very selfish and then how
Hmm.
I've learned to be more selfless. So that's
Mm.
something that I think going into the next phase of life. I mean, I'm 46, as I move towards 50, who knows? We'll see how I evolve next. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see over the next couple of years how my content and my writing and my
Mm.
speaking evolves again, now that I have this
Yeah.
new dimension of stuff. So
Mm.
I know
Are you
you've
going?
been sort of on that journey a long time too. So it's
Yeah,
uh,
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
What were we gonna say?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, are you going to write a book?
I have a good friend of mine who's a prolific author. I think he's written like 7 or 8 books, and he's always harassing me to write a book, write a book, write a book. And I'm like, I know, I know. Most of my writing is actually on my blog, on my website,
Mm.
midsonshort.com. So I have, I don't know, there must be like 200 or 300 like long form blogs I've written over the years.
Okay.
A lot of them became speeches. And so there are
Oh.
2 or 3 that I thought, if I actually flesh this out, I'd like to
Mm-hmm.
write something around the art of detachment. That's
Mm.
one blog that's done really well on my website. And so I'm like, maybe this could be like a little. I'd like to write like maybe 100-page book, something really
Yeah.
simple. And I don't want it to. I always call them airport books. Those ones you see when you're
Yeah.
in the airport. They're like little small, like 100
Mm-hmm.
pages, or like Seth Godin writes, like the smaller kind of smaller
Perfect.
size, smaller content. So
Great.
maybe in the next year or two, I'll attempt to
Nice.
maybe write one around detachment or something like that, or
Mm.
even the concept of like paying attention. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
another one where people get very, especially these days, get very lost in
Mm-hmm.
distractions and things that
Mm-hmm.
don't matter.
That's true. So with detachment, what's a tip that people can use?
Oh boy. I mean, to me, it is literally letting go of results or what you think the outcome should be. I think a lot of the time our pain, right? It's that old, what's the Buddha saying? The root of suffering is attachment,
Mm.
or is that right?
True.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of the time having an expectation or something that you think should happen or should be a certain way, or even like hoping too hard for something, I think there's something in that as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
even I've
Mm-hmm.
always been a real goal setter and a driven person, and that's
Mm.
great. But I think sometimes you almost like lean too hard into the like, yeah, when I get this, then everything's going to be
Mm-hmm.
great. And if it
Mm-hmm.
works out this way or whatever, and you
Yeah.
realize like there's only so much you can control because the whole
Yeah.
world is evolving and changing, and a lot of it's
Mm-hmm.
random. And so as I've learned to detach from outcomes, I've actually
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed life a lot more and things have just flowed to me. Like my
Mm.
relationship, that was literally
Yeah.
me saying, you know what, this isn't going to work. Like I'm going to do 10 dates. Who cares? And I was so detached from it that I think I was open to whatever was coming in,
Yeah.
my way. And lo and behold, an amazing person came along.
Yeah.
Whereas if I think I'd gone into that going like, okay, I'm going to find the love of my life. This is it.
Yeah.
I would have almost scared her off. She would have thought,
Yeah.
who's this guy?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. And then also, even with my speaking, like with the speech contests I've done over the years, when I first started, I was very obsessed with like, I'm going to win, I'm going to crush everyone. This is my destiny, like just really bad. And as time's gone on, I'm like, oh, who cares? Like, you go for
Enjoy
it,
the
get
ride.
as far as you get. Exactly. And the amazing thing is I met other really cool speakers and, just got to travel around the world to different places to speak and all those things I was kind of neglecting or not noticing in the beginning because I was so attached to the outcome now I've actually started just relishing the journey more. And so, yeah, I think it's just if you find yourself almost suffering for a result or an outcome, is to say, okay, what am I attached to here? What am I,
Mm.
demanding or thinking must happen or whatever words you want to say?
Mhm.
And then ask yourself, does it actually have to happen? What if it doesn't? Will you be
Mhm.
okay? Yes, probably. And
Mhm.
move on. And it's okay. And we've all had
Mm.
tough times and things where things didn't work out. And actually on the other side of it was something even better, right?
That's right.
And it was only our
Exactly.
attachment to the old thing that kind of kept us in pain.
Yeah.
So
That's a
yeah,
good point because there's something better for us there if we let go of that. Yeah, 100%.
yeah,
I've seen that in my own life so many times.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And so,
Good.
you kind of never know. I don't know if you've ever heard that old parable. It's about I read it in a book recently. It's the old man who's like I can't remember what it is. Like his he has a horse and it runs away or something, and then the villagers are like, "Oh no, you lost your horse! How terrible!" And he's like, "Oh, maybe." And then the horse comes back, and it actually brought a bunch of other horses with it. And they're like, "Oh wow, you're so lucky!" And he's like, "Maybe." And then his son is riding the horse and breaks his leg, like he falls off the horse and breaks his leg. And everyone's like, "Oh no, you're so unlucky because his son broke his leg." And then the village goes to war with another village, and everyone except his son has to go to war because he's
Oh my
broken his
gosh.
leg. And they're like, "Oh, you're so lucky." And he's like, oh, like it's this, like it's
Yeah.
this whole kind of, it's an old parable, but the idea is
Perspective.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
he's just attached from me their outcome, and
Yeah.
he's fine, whereas everyone else is judging it both ways. And
Exactly.
so, yeah, I've learned
Ah,
that I always keep that in mind when something goes good or bad. I'm like, well, hang on,
yeah.
let's just be, let's just be open to what comes next. So.
Yes.
And
Great.
I'm sure you would say, like, if Daniel from 15 years ago would have said, "No, wait, that's a bunch of crap. You got to control everything, and got to be in charge, and you got to dominate." And no, I've learned to just detach.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
cool. That's a great journey that you're on. And yeah, it's obviously working for you.
It
Yeah.
is, yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, if anyone ever needs help with whether it is the topics like that,
Hmm.
confidence or detachment or any of that kind of stuff, I'm always happy to help. It's been interesting with my YouTube journey. I've had a lot of people reach out to me just because they watch one of my videos, and a lot of young men actually who are maybe like 10 years behind me, in
Yeah.
terms of life experience, and they'll reach out to me and just say, "Oh, I wanted to." Ask you a question about this or that. And so I'll jump on a Zoom call with them. I've never met them, but they've seen my, videos, and
Wow.
they're like, "Oh wow, thank you for doing that." And I'm like, "Of course," because I want to give back and I want to
Yeah.
contribute. So, yeah,
That's
same with
great.
public speaking, same with anything I'm doing. If there's someone I can help and contribute to,
Yeah.
I really think it's beneficial just to give back to people. So, yeah, for
Definitely.
anyone who's listening to this, if there's something I've spoken about that resonates and you need help or you want to talk more, I'm
Mm.
always here.
Lovely. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks for joining me
Yeah.
today. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, again, it seems so wonderful seeing your journey the last couple of years and the growth and development and joy that's come out. So it's been very rewarding watching that from my perspective, seeing you grow. So I'm excited to see where you go next.
Thank you. All right. Well, let's
Yeah.
surprise each other then.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
Thank you, Daniel, for that inspiring conversation. Here are the key takeaways. Don't underestimate the importance of being present. It can make or break relationships. Embrace detachment. We can't completely control the future. Let go and trust that something better is on its way. Self-worth doesn't come from external things. It comes from service to others. Competence builds confidence. We all feel fear. Feel the fear and do it anyway. And we also have an inner critic. So turn the dial down on your inner critic and turn the dial up on your self-expression. It really is going to help you grow and try new things. Writing a speech is like a musician's set list. Collect stories and string them together. Tune into your core message and build out a speech using different formats. Choose 2 or 3 topics and flesh them out. It will help you build your skills. Public speaking really is a macro skill. It grows stronger with use and repetition, like a muscle. Be open to different ways of serving your community. You could even start a book club. Detach from the outcomes and allow ease and flow into your life. Perception is everything. Is the glass half full or half empty? Thank you so much for listening. It means a lot to me. These conversations are having such a positive ripple effect all around the world. So if you really enjoy them and want to spread those good vibes, please remember to subscribe, comment, like, and share with someone you care about today.